Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is anybody there? Of course, Bonnie and Holly are my first two on. They're always the first ones on. Thanks for being here, y'all. I appreciate you. Y'all hear me
Thank
okay?
you.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Give people just a minute. How was our weekend? I tried to talk to you, Holly, but how was the rest of your day yesterday?
It was fine.
Just fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Just I'm sorry about your offer, but you'll find them something else, I
Um,
promise.
I was so heartbroken, but when I called her and told her, she was real nonchalant. And so then I was like, "Are you okay?" And it's back. And she wrote back. She's like, "Yeah, it's not really what we were looking for." I'm like, what? What?
I get that a lot from a lot of clients that are like, I think they're going to be more upset than they really are. And sometimes they actually had been thinking about it while they're waiting for an answer and have decided that maybe it wasn't the right one. But so who knows? I mean, you'll find them something else, I'm sure. Is this your aunt or is this somebody else?
No, this is the
The one with the dad
what
and the
that
money?
yeah. So I've told Cole, I said they're gonna find something on Baldwin and
Gotcha. All right. Hi, Bonnie. We don't get to see your pretty face today.
Good morning. And this screen is all you get this morning.
It's okay. I was just teasing you. I'm just kidding. I want to let you guys know that I think we kind of announced this, but I wanted to mention it. We are switching to a digital delivery format for RE Coach Crate instead of shipping out the boxes. Shipping costs just got out of control on top of like the postage, like sourcing the materials and things like that, plus printing costs make it so that it was a loss for me to continue to produce the boxes for the number of subscribers we have. So rather than halt the product, which I really think people like and want, we just decided to switch to a digital delivery format. So instead of receiving the physical box in the mail, you'd actually get the PDF that you can download that has all the information and links and pictures for pop by or something like that. So I just want to give you guys a heads up that that was a change that was coming that we just think makes more sense rather than losing money every month on delivering those. So I just want to give you guys a heads up about it. I don't know if you saw, Holly, you wouldn't have, well, I offered to share it with you, but Bonnie, did you see that I uploaded the trunk or treat like whole marketing package if you were thinking of hosting a trunk or treat at your church or in your neighborhood or for your community or whatever? I went ahead and uploaded in the marketing file of our team folder the all the slicks and materials and information that you need in order to host one. If you wanted to host a trunk or treat, all that is in the marketing folder of our team shared folders on Google Drive. Okay. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome. At the bottom of that trunk or treat, the same company offers a monthly newsletter for $5 a month. So I just wanted to mention it to you guys. If you don't have a newsletter or if you feel like it's too cumbersome for you to put one together, that same company that did the trunk or treat marketing materials offers a monthly newsletter for $5. I think it's pretty affordable. So I just want to mention that to you guys in the event that you're interested in adding a newsletter to your arsenal of things that you send out without having to like reinvent the wheel or spending a lot of time coming up with content. Um, with that being said, where's my chat window? There it is. Let me get you guys the link for your handout. I don't know where everybody is. I worked really hard on this, so annoyed, but I'm grateful that you guys are here. this is the link to your handout for today. And I will just tell you, like, for the two of you specifically, I'm sure you both will tell me, oh, I'm not ready for a virtual assistant, or I don't know that I can afford a virtual assistant, or why would I need one? And so, um, regardless of whether or not you think you're ready for one now or it's something you might want in the future, I think today's session is really going to help you, understand what all a virtual assistant can do for you. And then later, if you decide that that's something that you want to do, you will be well equipped on how to hire one and what you need to know about. Okay. Before we get started, have either of you ever hired a virtual assistant, or have you known anyone that has one?
I've known someone who has, and there were pros and cons to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with Holly that, I'm too controlling. Like, I was very hesitant to hire one. The other thing was that I had some agent friends of mine that had really bad experiences, like where there was some communication problems, like where the person they hired was not equipped to do some of the things that they need them to do. And so we're taking them more time to train them than for them to leverage their time. But we'll get into that in a second. Um, the thing about being controlling in this, because it's the same thing as hiring a transaction coordinator. I feel like I'm responsible. I carried this file all the way to closing, and it's really hard sometimes to turn that over to somebody because you're afraid something might go wrong. It affects your reputation. Are they going to mess up? Am I going to be liable? There's a lot of things to consider, but the whole purpose of hiring, like even a transaction coordinator, is to leverage your time. And leveraging your time, and I tell people all the time this, it either is going to do two things. Hiring somebody, whether it's a virtual assistant or transaction coordinator, whatever it is either going to make you more money because it frees you up to do high value, like high dollar activities, or it it frees you up to spend more time with your family or whatever it else that it is you want to do. It doesn't necessarily always equate to dollars and cents. So for me, hiring a transaction coordinator means I don't have to worry about the paperwork. I don't have to worry about, did I send this out in time? Is everything organized? Do we have everything we need? I can focus on other things. I can go on to my next deal. I can go on to my next closing. But for some people, that's very hard to give up all that communication because they feel like, my client doesn't know this person and that person is doing all the communication with my client. But I assure you, the first time you ever use a transaction coordinator, you would be, probably love how simple it is and how easy it is that you just hand it over to them and then they do the rest. A good transaction coordinator will copy you on every communication and give you the opportunity to just check in with your client and say, how's everything going? And you really let them handle the tedious part of the paperwork. I also know as a broker, when I own my company, that agents struggle with paperwork. They're not organized. I know that's not either of the two of you because both of you are very organized. I know that you guys have both turned in perfect files before, so you are the crown people that we look for. But as a broker, I used to spend half my day sending the little pipeline notes to my agents saying, this is missing a signature. This is, I need the addendum, or I need counter offer number 2, or whatever it is. And really all of that is to protect us so that if we get hauled into court, there is some kind of lawsuit, we have a complete file that we can then take to court to defend ourselves or to help substantiate with whatever the thing is. But I just want you to understand that, just because you turn it over to somebody does not mean you're relinquishing control. And I am a control freak in a lot of ways. So trust me, there are checks and balances that you're going to put in place to make sure that it's done the way that you want it done, that the way that you want it done. So let me open up and Candace is here. Let her in the room. Hi, Candace. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We were just setting the stage about what we're talking about today. So I was just getting ready to get started. So you're right on time. Let's look here at, Candace, can you see the link in the chat, or do I need to post it again for you?
Yeah, I don't see it. It's not there.
It's
for me.
okay. And what happens sometimes when you join in late, you can't see what was in the chat before you got there, so I wasn't sure.
Okay.
But it should be
Thank
there for you now if that
It
works.
is. Thank
Okay.
you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Okay. So first of all, what is a virtual assistant? Obviously, the general, my little Dora is up here next to me. Oh my gosh. She's cuddling with me. She says, a virtual assistant basically is a remote professional, somebody that usually works from their own home or has their own computer, has their own space or whatever, and that their job is to help support the various tasks that you need them to do. I'm going to move myself. Trying to get you there. Okay, so they're a remote professional who performs various tasks. They're going to help you by handling a lot of your time-consuming administrative or marketing tasks. Typically, people would hire them because they think that they would help them be more productive. So remember, you only have so many hours in a day. And sometimes hiring an assistant, whether it's a virtual assistant, typically have become much more popular because they're more affordable than hiring just a regular assistant that comes in or whatever. And of course, since COVID, a lot of people are working from home, so they've become virtual assistants. But the bottom line is that usually we hire them to help increase our productivity, help us be able to free us up from doing some other tasks that would allow us to focus on high dollar activities or things that actually make us money. Why you should hire a virtual assistant? They can help you stay organized if you're a mess, paperwork wise. If you're a mess, they can definitely help organize a lot of things. They can help you become more efficient. So a lot of times they can set up systems for you, like help you manage your email creating folders and rules in your emails that help organize those. They can help you with your CRM. They can help you with data entry. They can actually even help you, and we're going to talk about some of the other things they can and cannot do. But basically, they're going to free you up to focus on income generating tasks. Let's talk for a second, and you're going to have to unmute yourselves because I want to make sure you're alive and with me today. Let's talk for a second about what are income producing activities and what are non-income producing activities. I want you to think about what all you do throughout the day. And I want you to think of one or two things that are non-income producing tasks, non-income generating. What are some of those things that we do every day that are non-income producing?
Making up flyers
Yes.
or things like that.
Yep. Creating marketing materials in Canva is not a money generating task. Right? What else? Don't speak all at once now, y'all. Everything y'all do during the day makes you money. Come on. I know that's not true. All right. Don't make
Answering emails and phone calls.
Yes. Answering emails, phone calls. Absolutely. Like, calling, following up with leads, those kinds of things. Now, if the lead converts, some people think that makes you money, but the actual conversion of the lead is not a money generating activity, right? So the first thing you have to do is decide, what would I need a VA for? Like, what kind of tasks do I want to outsource to somebody, whether that is a in-person assistant or a virtual assistant? Like, what kind of things, how do I define what it is I want them to do? So one of the ways that you determine that, or the way I coach people, is that you actually list all the activities that you do in a given week, everything that you did, right? So I created a flyer, I set up somebody on an auto notify, I promoted a listing on social media, I went by and previewed a listing, I met a photographer, I installed a sign in the ground. Think of all the things that you do on a daily basis. And then you're going to categorize those things as a 1, 2, or 3. A 1 is something that can be absolutely done without you. You don't have to give them any input. You just tell them what to do and they do it, right? It does not require you, Holly, as a special sauce to get it done. Anybody could do it, right? A two is maybe needs a little bit more guidance from you, a little bit of instruction, but somebody could do it if you taught them how to do it or showed them how to do it, right? And then a three is going to be you're the special sauce and nobody can do it but me. Okay. The threes are going to be things that are typically required a license for. So talking about offers, negotiating price, negotiating inspections, the things that we know an assistant cannot do, showing houses, those are things that require a license. And I would say all those things are going to be your threes, right? But you do have activities and tasks that are ones or twos, okay? So you just need to evaluate which things in my life are ones or twos, and which things of the ones and twos are things that if I wanted to take them off of my plate, what would I fill that time with instead? Because this is the biggest mistake that I think people make. It's fine if you want to fill that time with family time. I'm okay with that. Your family comes first. And I don't want you to burn out. It's not like I'm telling you that the only reason to hire a virtual assistant is to make more money or to be more productive. I told you the other side of that is sometimes freeing you up so that you can spend quality time with your family. It's freeing you up so that you're not burnout, so that you're not working 100 hours a week, right? So that you can do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Maybe that's writing a book, running a marathon, like, taking Taekwondo, learning how to, I don't care. It's just, the point is that it's not just about productivity. It's also about what else, if you're not doing those tasks, what else are you doing? And why is that important to you? So you really need to define what it is that you think you could delegate to somebody else. And then you also need to think about, if I delegated this time to someone else, what would I do instead? So for me, if I have goals of I'm trying to sell 20 million and right now I have no help and no leverage, then I'm going to fill that time with trying to make sure that I'm on more appointments, that I'm on more client facing things, like meeting with business owners to get referrals, or other agents, or actually generating leads. Those are things that I really need to be able to do in person, and then it requires me the special sauce. That's not something I'm going to turn over to a virtual assistant. Okay. What you do want to do is make sure that you are determining what your virtual assistant can and cannot do. So to me, let me see if I can. So for me, like, remember, every state is going to have things that an assistant can or cannot do, depending on that law, the laws in that state. So in Tennessee, where most of us are, you cannot, your virtual assistant or any assistant even is not going to be able to show property. They're not going to be able to write contracts. They're not going to be able to negotiate contracts. They can't talk about price. You can't talk about terms of contracts. They cannot attend inspections. They cannot meet the appraiser. There are a lot of things that a non-licensee cannot do. So I want you to be familiar with what you can and cannot do. I do have a resource somewhere that I will email you guys after this. I'm going to make a note of it right now. That has a whole list of what an assistant can and cannot do. So that you just know. But my first tip for you, and assistant. My tip for you or advice for you is that you definitely need to make a list of, you have to start with the 1, 2, 3 categories. Like, which things are most important? Well, how many things in a day do I do that are actually administrative tasks? And is that the highest and best use of my time? I also want you to think about what your hourly rate is. Some of you that are newer, you don't know what your hourly rate is because you haven't made enough money or made any money to determine how many hours did I work to earn this amount of money, and what does that hourly rate look like? But I would assure you that your hourly rate is way more than $25 an hour. It should be probably $100 to $150 an hour, on up to $250 an hour. And when you realize what your hourly rate is actually worth, so again, if you don't have any closed sales, you can look and see what is the average sales price in my area. how many hours realistically would I work with a client from start to finish to earn that commission, and divide those hours by the total commission that you would have earned. That's going to give you an hourly rate. When you understand what your hourly rate is, you no longer look at your calendar and say, you know what, I can waste 2 hours doing X, Y, and Z, because if you realize that that was worth $250, then you're going to look at it with a different eye. You're going to look at it with a different mindset. Holly, have you started using your timer yet? I'm just curious. No.
Yes, I use my timer. Thank you.
Excellent.
Cole laughed at me.
No, it's okay. I'm not. I'm curious, because this is one of the things that it all ties together, is that I do have to set a timer for myself, and I had gifted Holly a timer for her to use as well, because it's very easy when you sit down on a computer and you start on a project or a task, and the next thing you know, 3 hours have gone by. But when you know what your hourly rate is for 3 hours at $250 an hour, that's a lot of time that I just wasted on that. That's not going to make me $750 back, right? So I want you to be balancing constantly your time against what the hourly rate would be, and determine, is this the highest and best use of my time, who I am highly skilled, highly qualified, and licensed, or is this something that I could dedicate to somebody else for $10 an hour or $20 an hour, or a project that is project based that maybe I pay $300 for, and let this person work on it for a week, right? That may be a better use of my time and my money. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things that I do recommend a VA can help you with. They certainly can do administrative tasks for you. They can actually schedule your appointments. They can use tools like Calendly. I used to use Acuity, I think is the name of it. But you can have an online calendar and hire someone to book appointments for you. If they're making outbound calls to your leads and you're trying to get them to come in for a buyer broker consultation or a listing appointment or something like that, you can have a VA schedule things for you. They have access to your calendar. They see when you have an opening, things like that. They can definitely manage your emails. They can set up rules. They can set up folders. They can create systems within your email. They can actually go through your emails and highlight the ones that require a response from you, or they can read your emails and say, okay, here's what I read in your email this week or today. This is what the 3 things you need to respond to. I've already responded to these other 3. So sometimes that can take a lot off of your plate, just going through your email. They definitely can prioritize your email. Like I said, this requires an immediate response from you. This is something you might want to answer back later, something like that. They can do data entry. So those of you who don't have a database, or your database is crappy, you don't have notes in it, you don't have, it's all in a notebook and not in a spreadsheet or not in your CRM. Sometimes somebody, a VA, can help you get that cleared up. They can help you work on that. That would be something I would consider a project-based. Not a daily thing, but a project-based project. They can also update CRMs. If you have it all on a spreadsheet, you can send the spreadsheet to them and they can update your CRM with the notes that you've taken. They can research things for you. So they can do market analysis if you're going to a listing appointment. Now, I will tell you, market analysis, I don't mean like a CMA. I mean, could you show somebody how to pull a generic report for Bellevue using our MLS and have them email that to a client? Is that something that you could take 10 minutes to show them how to do with a Vimeo, Vimeo? You can record a video and show them how to do it. Or is that something you want to keep doing yourself, right? If you want them to do property research, hey, call this listing agent and find out what the age of the major systems are. Call this listing agent and see if they know why, where the property lines are. All the things that you would ask a regular assistant if they were your right-hand man sitting in your office with you. These are things that you can delegate to a virtual assistant. Marketing tasks, social media management. You literally could give them your whole social media calendar, which, by the way, October is posted in the recoachcrate group already. You could give them that whole calendar and say, I want you to manage my social media for the month. Here's the topics. go ahead and write a blog for each one, or go ahead and post something using this format or using this calendar and have them create it. That's a project-based thing that you would allocate. I'm going to allocate 15 hours for, or 10 hours for at X dollars an hour, get it done for me. And then that frees me up for 5 hours, right? Or however many hours it takes you. They can do email campaigns. So you can have them set up your outbound communication from start to finish, from the time you pick up a client to the app post closing, and they can actually create all the emails along the way. You can give them the emails and they can set them up for you. And then designing marketing materials in Canva. We are not graphic designers. Most of us are not. Some of you are really good at it. Holly creates some incredible stuff on Canva that's really pretty. We all, some of you get really good at it because you use it so often. But if this is not your skill set and you don't know how to use it, hire a virtual assistant that is really a specialist in Canva that can do some incredible things and take that off of your plate. My thing is, I always tell people, if it takes you 2 hours to create a flyer, you have just spent $500 on a flyer if your hourly rate is $250. Think about that. That's incredible. You would not pay someone $500 to create a flyer for you, but you just spent 2 hours of your time doing it, right? If it's not your skill set, leverage it to somebody else and think about how you can free up yourself. If it's taking you all day to do that, forget it. They can do client communication, so follow-ups. They can answer initial inquiries when you have a new lead that comes in. You can outsource that to a virtual assistant. What I want to tell you, though, no matter what you have these people do for you, you have a responsibility to train them to do it the way that you want. They are a reflection of your business, right? They are, you want them to look at the service, the email, the communication, everything they're getting as a reflection of you. And we're going to talk about could be some small problems with that in a minute, but the bottom line is that you're going to set expectations for that VA. You're going to tell them, this is how I want this to be handled, right? So for some people, they never hired someone because they can't take the time. I want you to think of the busiest agent you know. Would they have time to explain to somebody how they want it? Would they have time to train the person to do it the way that they want? Or would they just say, hey, I hired you to do it for me, and then they're pissed off because they don't like the way it's done, right? I always am a big fan of more input you put on the front end, the better your output is going to be on the back end. It's just like setting expectations with your clients. So when you hire someone to do something for you, the more direction and guidance you give them on the front and setting expectations, the more that person can deliver and exceed your expectations. But if you just hire them and say, I want you to handle my email communication, but you give them no guidance about what kind of voice, how you want it written, what you want it to look like, you're basically rolling the dice hoping that they understand what you want, which I think is a waste if you're paying somebody to do it. That's silly, in my opinion. Okay. They also can do your database management. Like I said, they can do your updates in your CRM. They can also nurture your leads. So, hey, can you follow up with this person and check to see, have they been receiving your emails? Do they have any questions? Can you get an appointment? Remember, your lead nurturing, you have to go 7 to 10 touches with every lead that you get. Most agents quit after 2. So if you don't have the staying power or the attention span to go 7 to 10, maybe that's something you leverage with somebody. Where can you find or hire a virtual assistant? There's companies like Upwork, Freelancer, or there's also there's some agencies. There's also like Fiverr and things like that. You'll see those. I have a list of resources for you at the bottom. But there are also some virtual assistant agencies. Now, hiring somebody yourself on Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer, things like that, they're going to be cheaper. But they're not as screened as some of the agencies. So the agencies are already going to screen people for skills, for technical ability, for language, and competency in language and things like that. Whereas the people you hire on Upwork, Freelancer, Fiverr, whatever, you might get someone from Bangladesh they're not allowed to have a PayPal account. You don't like their accent. And I'm not being racist. I'm just telling you there are some criteria that you might have, and they're not screened. Maybe they don't have a great command of the English language, and that may not be someone you want making phone calls for you. Okay. So the agencies might be more expensive, but you might get more qualified people that you can delegate more things to. So think about that. I would recommend, no matter what you do, you need to write an effective job description. If you're looking to hire a virtual assistant of some sort, you need to have a clear and detailed job description. Basically, what platforms are these people going to be using? Like, what systems? Now, I wouldn't expect that a virtual assistant knows how to use RealTracks or your local MLS. You might have to show them through a Vimeo. I do want to make a comment, though, just for my protection. You're not going to give your login and password to a virtual assistant. There are assistant accounts that you can get through RealTracks that allows them to log in under their own name and be able to do the research and get access to it. You're not just going to give them your login and password. I just wanted to say that for my protection, that I'm not encouraging that. Okay. And there's rules against that. So I'm just saying there are assistant accounts that you can buy that lets somebody log in. And they are already tied to you. You definitely want to include specific tasks, required skills, and preferred experience in your job description. So if I were looking to hire a VA, I would say an excellent command of the English language. I would say that they have highly technical, they're technologically advanced, meaning that they can run, Google Sheets, they can run, databases, they can run whatever computer programs you want them to be able to use, you want to have that in your job description. I would recommend that you conduct video interviews to anybody that you hire, because even though I might say excellent command of the English language, have you heard them speak English? Are they easy to understand? Do a video interview so that you can assess their communication skills. You can ask about their relevant experience. You can ask about their references. And you can talk to them and get to know, is this somebody that I feel like I could work with? Am I going to have a language barrier? Am I going to have a misunderstanding? Am I even capable of hiring somebody because I don't want to tell them when they do something wrong? I can't give constructive criticism, or I can't give feedback without them getting upset. Like, you're going to know a lot of that in a video interview versus just looking at a resume or looking at some email from them. Okay. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. You definitely want to check references, ask them if they've done any virtual assistance work for any other real estate agents. They might have done VA work for other industries. How does that apply to real estate? And can they think of any skills that they've used somewhere else that would apply to your real estate business? Then you definitely want to explore the different payment models that you can use to pay a VA. A lot of them are going to be hourly. Some of them are going to be a fixed rate. So for example, I'll do whatever you ask me to do for $300 a month, which you may get more bang for your buck there. But you also have to have some things in place so that you can see how often are they working? Are you getting the most value for your money? And then there's going to be project-based pricing, where it's like $500 for a full marketing campaign for the whole year, or $100 a month, or $25 a month to do my social media, or whatever it is. Don't expect somebody to do your social media for $25 a month. I just want you to know that. But certain things can be hourly, other things can be a flat rate, and then other things can be project-based, depending on what it is that you're looking to hire. Strategies for delegating things. And this is hard for people like Holly and me that say, hey, I'm a control freak. This is kind of hard to let go of that. You do need to clearly define the tasks and expectations. What do you want it to look like? Especially if you're doing Canva design work. I have learned the hard way with hiring people. I have to give them samples of things that I like, the color scheme, give them the hex codes for my logos, that they're using the right colors. Give them the fonts, whatever it is that they are going to need to extend your brand standards. Give that to them up front so that they're not guessing what the colors are. Or give them samples of the work that you like so that they can see what it is that you're expecting, so that you're not going to be disappointed when you get the end product. Okay. Use task management tools. There's things called Trello or Asana. If you've never heard of them, they are free project management software. Same thing like Slack. They basically, you can create task lists and check them off. You can organize things. It's a project management software that has free access for you, and that is a great tool for you to use with a virtual assistant because you both have access. You both can see what has been done and what still needs to be done. You definitely want to manage your time carefully. You want to prioritize tasks that require your expertise. Remember, those are going to be the 3s and the 2s, things that you're going to have to take time to train them how to do. You are going to have to set specific working hours and make sure that they can respond to you in a timely manner. If I am hiring someone from Pakistan or Bangladesh or India or whatever, I need to be very aware of the time zones that they're working. There are a lot of virtual assistants from other countries. And by the way, y'all, there's lots of virtual assistants that work right here in our country. There's a lot of people that work in high English speaking countries. So when I say examples like Vietnam, Philippines, wherever, they don't have to be from there. They can be from anywhere. I'm just giving you, if you are hiring somebody from another country, make sure you know what their working hours are going to be. How do those coincide with your working hours? Because sometimes they will actually work at night in their country so that that corresponds with your day work schedule here in the US. So just make sure you have that conversation. What is your availability? What does that look like in terms of how we can connect with each other? I would also set up a time that you would talk weekly. If you're hiring a virtual assistant for the long haul, can we meet once a week at 6 p.m. or whatever time is convenient for them for us to talk about what the tasks are coming up for this week, or what's your status on the project that I hired. How do you calculate the return on your investment? And this is a little bit harder because you don't have all of these tasks that you're delegating to somebody else aren't necessarily making you money. So for a lot of agents, they have a hard time hiring somebody to do something because they're not sure that it's going to make them enough money. All they see is the money going out. They're not seeing money coming in necessarily because they're administrative tasks. They're not income producing tasks. And so I would tell you, does it free you up to do high value activities where you do make money? Or does it free you up to spend more time with your family? And if it does, sometimes you have to pay in order to do that, right? Or is it low value activities that are not the highest and best use of your time anyway? To me, that's a huge return on my investment. I don't mind paying somebody $25 an hour to do these things when I make $250 an hour. That just doesn't make sense. They can increase your lead generation and your conversion rates. And we know that if we convert leads, we make money, right? So that is one way to measure some return. Are they better skilled at converting leads? Is it their skill set? Do they enjoy making 10 phone calls to somebody, talking to their voicemail all of the time? Are they better at converting leads than you are? That would be an easy way to track some return on that investment because you can actually see that they're doing something that you don't like doing. It actually frees you up for more time for client meetings and property visits. We make money when we are in front of clients, when we were on the sales cycle. Remember, the sales cycle starts with generating a lead and getting an appointment. A lot of us are stuck in the generating of the lead part, and we're not meeting with enough clients face to face. Hiring a virtual assistant might be able to get you in front of more people. They might be able to set you more appointments, make it possible for you to actually make more money. The last one is the improved work-life balance and reduced stress. You can't put a price tag on the fact that you don't have to work 100 hours a week because someone else is taking care of some of the administrative tasks. But are you happier? You're less stressed. You're less likely to burn out. Your kids are not bad. Your husband or wife is not always mad that you're on your phone, or that you're constantly working on vacation or during family time. That may not have an actual quantitative value that you can check on and say, yeah, this is a return, but that is worth a lot. So you just need to be cautious of how can I measure whether or not this is worth it to me. And it's going to differ for every agent, agent to agent. Some things that I want you to be cautious of or careful about. There is likely going to be some miscommunication and or language barriers depending on where the person is hired from. So you want to make sure, do they have a great command of the English language? Are they easy to be understood? If someone called and they have a really thick, heavy accent, is that going to be more of a turnoff to your clients and to your sphere than than anything that they could answer. I would just tell you, you are the one to determine that. You are going to be the one to figure out whether or not that is going to be best for your clients. Security and data privacy, and this is what I mean. Sometimes you have to share logins and passwords with this person. Just know that you are giving them access to your business, and that you just want to make sure you have safeguards in place that you can still recover your accounts. Don't let the virtual assistants choose passwords for you. You provide passwords for them, so that if they quit, you have access to it. You have a way to get into it. I have seen people hire people and the person just disappears, and the agent did not even have the password to be able to get into their own CRM and could not recover it. So just make sure you have safeguards in place, that you know what your login and passwords are at all times, and they are not the administrator of it. They are an editor or an admin of it, but not an administrator with password privileges. Okay. Do they have the technical proficiency? Do they even know how to, do they have a computer? Do they know how to access it? Is their internet really spotty? Is it, do they have satellite internet like I used to have? Like what is their proficiency and what are they capable of doing? What tools are they familiar with that you currently use in your business that you could help, that they're going to already be familiar with? Cultural sensitivity basically means, you should be aware as the agent hiring the person. Are there practices in their country? Are there practices according to their culture that you want to be respectful of? And are these practices going to be understood by your clientele as well? What's the quality of work? Again, you are an extension of my business, so my expectations are going to be super high. I want to make sure that you understand what I expect of you, and I want to make sure that when you produce graphics for me on Canva, that they mirror my expectations and the quality of design that I want. I don't want you just to slap a picture and then slap some text on there with no design, with no thought for design or anything like that. So I want to know, is the quality of work meet my expectation? I want to know what their availability is and what time zones they're working in, and how does that correspond with me? I had an agent once that hired a virtual assistant who was on the West Coast and the agent was on the East Coast, and they could never figure out what time it actually was. And so that person would be calling people at midnight when it was 9 o'clock on the East Coast, or vice versa. I mean, they would call them at midnight when it was 9 o'clock in California. And so you want to make sure that the time zones match up and that you've given them instructions about what's an appropriate time to call people if they're doing that. You should have a written agreement with this person and those payment terms of how they're going to get paid and when they're going to get paid, and what platform you're using to pay them. Again, remember I mentioned somebody in Bangladesh, PayPal is actually illegal. They don't allow PayPal. So, you would need to know, how am I going to pay this person? Do they have the capability of me paying them electronically, and what does that look like? But you want to have the contract written out. You want to have specifically your expectations, and you want to have some repercussions built in there that, if something is not responded to within a certain period of time, you could fine them, you could deduct money, you could have recourses for things not happening. If the deadline, if you hire somebody for a project and they tell you they can complete it by the end of October, what's the penalty if it's not completed on time? Do you get a discount? Are they then required to deliver it within 7 days? You just need to have all of the contracts spelled out in terms of what to expect, all spelled out, so that there's no question. You're not going to be able, I do want to warn you about this, I'm not an attorney, but I will just tell you, you're not going to be able to sue somebody in another country for that. But if they are a US based employee or US based assistant, that contract is going to be released. You do want to check their references. Do they have anybody that they've done previous work for that you could call and see how they liked working with them? Background checks are going to be really hard if you're dealing with foreign providers, but people in the US, you should be able to do a background check if you so choose to. Scalability, can they grow with you? Do they have very limited capability that works for now, but as you grow and as you come up with more activities for them to do or more things that you want them to do? Are they able to grow with you, or will they only work for this period of time because that's their limited skill set? Are they dependable and reliable? When you give someone a task, do they complete it quickly? Do you have to constantly harass them to get it? Do you have to follow up multiple times to make it done, to make sure it's done? So I want to know how dependable and reliable they are. I would definitely encourage you to start somebody out on a trial period, so before you go giving people all the stuff that you want them to do, give them a few tasks to get started on. Let them wow you, let them impress you with those tasks first. And then maybe give them some more important things or some of your 2 items instead of just the ones, right? And then legal compliance is, again, making sure you're checking that list of what an assistant can do, make sure that it complies with your state laws, that you're not asking an assistant to do something that would be breaking the law in your state about what a licensed versus unlicensed person can do. They give you guys 3 case studies, so 3 examples of someone using a virtual assistant. The first one was time management, lead generation. Sarah was really busy, spending too much time on administrative tasks and managing emails and data entry. Her lead generation efforts were suffering, so not very good in conversion. She actually hired a VA to handle her email correspondence, to schedule appointments for her, and to update her CRM. She tasked the VA with conducting market research and compiling leads. And now that she had more time, Sarah could focus on client meetings, which actually make her more money, and property visits. Her lead generation efforts improved significantly, and she got 30% an increase in new clients. And she attributed that to delegating certain tasks to her. Second case study was the marketing campaign efficiency. So Mark struggled to maintain an active online presence. It just wasn't something he was good at. He definitely was not skilled in social media. And so he hired somebody that could run more consistent campaigns and had more time to dedicate it. So we brought on a VA that was really skilled in social media management and content creation. He gave them guidelines and ideas. He wanted the voice of the social media to match and mirror his personality. So he gave a lot of input on the front end. And then the result was that Mark's social media flourished with regular updates and engaging content. His email campaigns were executed flawlessly, and he had a 25% increase in his web traffic and a 15% boost in his lead conversions. The VA support allowed Mark to focus on more client relationships, which actually makes us more money. And then the last one I gave you was a streamlined administrative process. So John, his business was growing, but he was overwhelmed by a lot of administrative tasks, like scheduling, managing his files once it went under contract, keeping up with his database, all the stuff that we kind of put on the back burner because it's not a priority every day, but it definitely helps us move much smoothly and more efficiently. And so he hired a VA and tasked them with scheduling appointments, organizing all his documents, and maintaining his database. Because his administrative processes were more streamlined and error-free, he could actually handle his clients more effectively, and that actually led him to a 40% increase in his annual revenue so that he could focus more on negotiations, property evaluations, and going after fishing for more clients instead of worried about all the administrative tasks that he knew he was not skilled at and that he didn't like. I've given you a last page here, which is just a recommended tools and resources. There's some online platforms that I mentioned earlier for hiring virtual assistants. There are agencies that you can hire that have already screened and trained and sourced various VAs. There are time management or project management softwares like Trello, Asana. There's even Slack that you guys know about. And then there's Calendly. So someone could have access to your calendar and be able to make appointments. Your email marketing, if you want to use Constant Contact or MailChimp. Obviously, if you're on my team and we use Real Geeks, you can actually send e-blasts out through Real Geeks, and managing your email communication through Real Geeks could be something that you would leverage to a VA. As far as social media management tools, Hootsuite allows marketers to basically create the content in one place and then spread it out among the various social media channels that you have. There's also Buffer and Sprout Social. As far as coaching and training resources, there's tons of stuff available on NAR's website about virtual assistants, about the kinds of tasks that you could leverage with a VA, more examples than I've given you today. And then Tom Berry has some resources for virtual assistants as well. A simple Google search on virtual assistants for real estate will pop up all kinds of things like a checklist or things that you could delegate. There are books if you're a reader on delegation and productivity. The 4-hour work week is really mind-blowing. I can't imagine fitting everything into 4 hours, but I have had friends read that and swear by it. The same thing with like, I think there's another one that's like taking every Friday off or something like that. But there's also virtual freedom, how to work with virtual staff, and then essentialism, which is the disciplined pursuit of less. So that's basically, I've read a bunch of things by Greg McKeown, but it's really just about figuring out what it is that you really should be doing. And as real estate agents, we have a long list of tasks all the time, but are those tasks, do they lead to a paycheck? Are they on the sales cycle? Are they things that you have to be a part of as the special sauce, or is it something you can delegate to somebody else with a little training and education? There's tons of blogs about VAs and, Inman News is one. I do have a subscription to Inman. I would highly recommend it if you want to stay on the pulse, but it can get expensive, so you may not want to be ready for that. Bigger Pockets is another one. And then there are LinkedIn groups that talk about the use of a virtual assistant as well. So that could also help give you some more information about what to expect with a virtual assistant. At the end of the day, just to summarize, is that, I want you to go through your tasks that you do every day and categorize them. Is it something that is very low level administrative, or is it something that you could teach somebody how to do it better? Or is it, actually something that you only could do because it requires a license or a special skill? And then I want you to decide, if you hired somebody to do these things, what would that do for you? Would it free you up to do other things that make you more money, like client appointments, listing appointments, lead generation, or whatever that is? Or is it freeing you up so that you can spend more time with your family? And that is also precious. That is also worth a lot. My kids are 22 and 19. I spent a lot of my career working, thinking that I was providing them with a better life and that I was demonstrating hard work for them. But they grew up so fast, and the next thing I knew, they were out of high school and on to college or even moved out. And, I missed a lot of time with my kids growing up. And so looking back on it, I would have absolutely leveraged some more of my time to spend more time with my kids. And not in a pursuit of making more money, but just what can I take off of my plate that somebody else could do easily that would free me up to spend more time with them. So think about it from that perspective. Anybody have any questions for me? Are y'all still here? Are you sleeping? Are you doing 100 other things? Let me know. Any questions or comments about hiring a virtual assistant, or, your first step is to identify what tasks you need to delegate. And then your next step is to research available virtual assistants for you. What does that cost? And creating kind of a list of expectations for that person so that they, exactly what it is that you want them to do. Okay. I hope that this was helpful to you. I want to remind you guys that next week we're actually talking about midterm investing. So instead of short term, which is Airbnb, VRBO, things like that, or long-term investing is going to be more like a long-term tenant that's there for a year or two. Midterm investing is going to be typically like 30 days, 30 to 90 days probably. If you think of traveling nurses or corporate relocation, they're typically going to be furnished. And the rent is going to be higher than you would get on a long-term rental. And so it's in between the two, the short-term and the long-term midterm rentals. We're going to talk about that next week. Bonnie asks, is a VA less expensive than hiring someone that's physically here? The answer is yes. Especially if you are hiring a VA that is highly skilled, it's usually going to be, they can accomplish, especially if they have done real estate industry work before, they can accomplish what you're asking them to do in less time, which saves you money if you're paying hourly, or the normal wage for hourly work based on where that person is hired from is a lot less than you would have to pay somebody that's actually physically here. You just have to decide for yourself, like, again, is this something that, do I want someone local and I'm willing to pay more for it? Or can I get away with some things because they're not client facing? So again, if I have tasks that are all behind a computer and they don't actually have to interact with the client, the hourly rate for that is much lower. I could pay someone $7 an hour versus $25 an hour to do some of those tasks. And you would be surprised how skilled and able they are to do those. Okay. So that's the only reason why we even talk about virtual assistants, is because, again, you have less overhead with virtual assistants. Typically, the hourly rate is less. You don't have to worry about insurance. They're not actually an employee. They're a contractor, independent contractor. And so it just depends on what your goals are and what you're trying to delegate to that person to do. Okay. All right, my lovely ladies. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope you go out and kill it this week. I'll be back in Nashville this week, Tuesday through Friday morning. So if you need me for anything, don't hesitate to call me. But I'm super glad that you guys were here today. I hope it was helpful. Next week, let's talk about midterm rentals and how you can actually make a decent amount of money off of those, or helping investors find them, what they need to know about them. So same bat channel, same bat time next week. Have a wonderful day. Okay.